I've never preached this message before, so it doesn't matter. So it's not going to be polished, but it's got a lot of my heart in it, and it's got a lot of God in it. So if it's not polished, it's because it's not polished. But I just want to give you some stuff that I've learned about relationships, about being in the family, about living in the village, God's village. And when you come across something that's got your name on it, write it down so you can chew on it, so you can think about it. Okay. From this passage, 1 Corinthians 12 through 27, I see several things emerge. One is the concept of interdependence. Interdependence. All of the different body parts, we need each other. We are all dependent upon each other. Let me explain what I mean. I have cystic fibrosis, which we've talked about. There are a lot of things that manifest as a result of cystic fibrosis. I also had polio when I was 6 months old. We haven't given the love offering tonight, so I think I'll just talk about this for a while, because this might motivate love offering. Anyway, one of the practical manifestations of cystic fibrosis because of oxygen deprivation, as well as post-polio syndrome, is I have tremendous cramps in my muscles. My muscles just knot up because of my incessant coughing, plus the post-polio syndrome, so I get muscle knots just all over my body. What I have noticed about my body is my body so works together to help get those knots out. I'll do the pressure points on me. And I see my body working together. It's so natural. My body just does it. It flows. I never have my hand say, there's no way I'm going to massage the calf. I'm just not going to do it. I'm tired of massaging the calf. It's interdependent. My body gets deeply involved in the places where I hurt. That's the way God wants us to be as part of His body. To work together when we hurt. To where we would so walk in the Spirit in this thing that it would almost just be natural, supernaturally natural. We wouldn't have to think about it and ponder about it. We had practiced that holy living so much, we would just gravitate towards that. Interdependence. Total participation. Every part of my body needs to work together. I do not have the luxury in my physical body of not having parts to say, well, I'm just not going to participate. I'm just going to pout, and I'm not going to participate. It's total participation. Do you know what? When you stop participating in the family, the body is robbed. Quit robbing the body. Stop it. Participate. Participate. It's cooperation versus competition. Now that's a big point, because you and I have been raised in a culture of competitiveness. We compete, we compete, we compete, we compete, and then we wonder why sometimes we have a hard time cooperating. It's because we have been born and bred in a culture of competition. Folks, can I say this tenderly? You're not in competition here. No, you're not. You're in cooperation. We need to put to death a spirit of competition in the family of God. It's a body killer. It's a disease in the body. When people weep, we weep. When people mourn, we mourn. When people dance, we dance. When people rejoice, we rejoice. There's no competition. There's lots of cooperation. We have different parts of the body, 1 Corinthians 12. We have different gifts. We have different functions. We are all not alike. Thank God. I'm getting ready to say something real important, not only just about church life, but about married life. About married life. One of the toughest things is learning to appreciate the differences versus resent the differences. My wife and I have been married 26 years, and you could not find two more different people on the face of the globe. On the face of the globe. I'm an extrovert, she's an introvert. I'm a feeler, she's a thinker. I'm intuitive, she's logical. We are the goofiest looking couple you have ever seen. in terms of differences. But you know what? When you put us together, if we stay in love, i.e. committed to one another, as well as emotionally in love, the two of us make 10 people. The synergy, I don't even know what that word means, but it just fit here. The synergy of two people can make 10. But I tell you, the challenge of staying in love and appreciating the differences versus resenting the differences. Because when you got people that are radically different, hello, they see things differently. Well, duh. We're different in the body of Christ. Let's quit resenting our differences. Let's start appreciating our differences. It's okay to be different. Man, if all the body was an eye, we'd see well, but we'd look funny, wouldn't we? The body would be severely limited if it only had one part. Another thought, in the body, some of the parts are visible, some of the parts are invisible in the body. Some of the parts are covered, some of the parts are exposed. And I want to just camp here for a minute. I'm so tired. I'm just so tired of this sick tendency that we have to elevate the visible people in the body a lot more than the invisible people. We are a Christian celebrity weird deal. We're servants, we're not celebrities. And yet we are such a celebrity intoxicated society, the more, even in the church, in the visible, we want Christian celebrities, charismatic celebrities with charisma, and they become the church. Now, I'm not minimizing visible gifts. I just don't want to maximize them. I don't want to be a Christian celebrity, folks. And there's some of you who are saying, you're not going to have to worry about it. Don't stay up at night, David. You're not going to have to worry about that. I want to tell, I was thinking about this in my hotel room. This is one of the most embarrassing stories that I'm going to tell about me, but I won't tell you. I was preaching last February in Atlanta, that big dome, that Superdome or Mega Dome, or I get the domes all mixed up. But anyway, I'm there. And there's 7,300 youth pastors and wives there. And there's tons of speakers and tons of music groups, and they got, 10 of us speaking in one night, and DC talk, and just everybody. Everybody's up on the platform, and I'm supposed to kind of do they hand me the baton at the end, and I'm supposed to make sense of all this circus. So I get up, and I got a few minutes to try to draw this thing together. Well, before I got up, I think DC Talk did their deal, and youth pastors began to run to the platform to get their autographs and just do goofy stuff. Well, I sat back there, and I was just so offended. And I just, one of a big mucky muck in the youth area was by me, and we just mucked on each other, and we just said, isn't that ridiculous? We can give 16-year-old girls big space to do autographs and all of that, but we're the shepherds, and we should be beyond that now. And then and then I got up, and before I spoke, I made a little comment. I wasn't mean, but I made we should be past that now. Let's quit being Christian celebrities, and let's be servants. And it was good, and it was right. Now, this is the embarrassing thing. I finished my little ditty, and God really does some good stuff, not just through me, but through a lot of the guys. I come off the stage, and there's this guy in my peripheral vision. I can't see him, I don't recognize him, but I do see a friend of mine. And we started talking. His name was Alan. And then Alan moves my face, and he says, David, have you met my friend Michael W. Smith? And inside of me, down in the sick caverns, if my insides could have been projected on a screen, this is what you would have seen. Hi, Michael. Would you sign my t-shirt? Or just sign my forehead. So when I talk about this Christian celebrity thing, I'm not one bit better than you are in that. I'm not pontificating. I need repentance in my own heart. Consistently. But folks, the truth is we give way too much credibility to the visible people and not enough credibility to the invisible people. And we need to grow in that. The people this week who've worked back in the food pantry, nobody saw them. They've done something just as honorable as what I've done this week. I'm not minimizing what I've done, but I'm not overstating what I've done. Let's grow up in this. Let's grow up in this. Let's be mature in this. Well, that's the priority of community. Now let's talk about the challenge of community. And we're moving more toward getting personal. Oh, we're laughing. We're not to the oh me part yet. But we're getting there. The challenge of community. What are some of the body killers? I've talked a little bit about this, but let me give you a few body killers. Pride is a body killer. It's a body killer. It's a family killer. Pride says, I always need to be seen. That kind of attitude will kill the body. I always need to be seen. I always need to be right. I refuse to receive. I refuse to ask for help. All of those are attitudinal killers in the body. I've got to always be in the spotlight. Pride. Pride comes before the what? The fall. Pride is a disease in the body. Well, I've enjoyed so much talking with David about this whole thing of humility, staying close to the ground. A friend of mine who's written some good books said humility, he calls it the shadow of God. He said humility is the only thing that can survive in the presence of God. Humility. I'll tell you what, you'll know if you're in the presence of someone who walks with God, you'll smell humility. Just listen to an interview with Billy Graham, and you've been in the presence of a great man. Humility. Pride is a killer. Jealousy. And I know I'm being redundant because I hadn't polished this very much, but jealousy is a body killer. If jealousy is your particular manifestation of your cesspool, your depravity, own that and say, man, I'm just an incredibly jealous person. I have a hard time rejoicing when someone rejoices. I get envious. I get covetous. I'm jealous. That's a family killer. It's going to hurt the family if you let that jealousy run rampant in your heart. Here's the one we don't talk much about, self-pity. That's a killer. In our family, we have people who have a terminal case of feeling sorry for themselves. They have a terminal poor self-image. Now, I will say this gently, but I want to say this strongly. Do you know not all the encouragement in the world is enough to prop up your poor self-image? The only way you're going to get a healthy self-image is to begin to believe what God says about you. And quit wearing us out trying to prop up your self-image. We're tired of trying to keep your self-image up. We're tired. Go to God to get your self-image, and I say that gently, but I say that strongly. We're tired of always trying to help you feel good about you. Because the truth is, it's never going to be enough until you go to God and you hear God say, you are a mess, but I love you. You are depraved, but I love you. Yes, on both counts. And that's when your self-image begins to get healthy. And people don't have to be around you. Oh, you're just so wonderful. You're not as mean as you think you are. Well, you might be as mean as you think you are. Self-pity. You know, I've gotten to where, and sometimes I'm not much fun to be with, but as I get older, you know, people will just be beating themselves up. And finally, I'll just say, you know, I'm not going to join the party of beating yourself up. If you want to beat yourself up, beat yourself up. But I'm not just going to be participating in your beat yourself black and blue party. Because I think you're special because God said you're special. And so I'm just not going to just participate in beating you up. So I think I'll leave and you just beat yourself up yourself. Oh, here's a big one. This is huge. This is a body killer. It's a little thing called vain imaginations. We think we know what people are thinking. Let me just give you something that'll help you in family life, in life together. Instead of imagining or assuming what people are thinking, why don't we just ask them? What a concept. What a concept. Well, I'll tell you, one of the saddest things about life together is that for some people, perceptions become the truth. And they will never let their perceptions go. You cannot interrupt their perceptions with the truth. They have their perceptions, and they're going to live with them, and they're going to die with them, and their perceptions may not be the truth. And out of that comes gossip and rumor and bad reports and whispers. And I was reading in Proverbs today, and one of the scariest verses made me tremble. It says, a whisperer separates chief friends. Wouldn't it be fun if this family, and I'm not talking about getting weird here, but wouldn't it be fun if when somebody gave you a gossip, just gave you a chief morsel of gossip that we love to just take down in us, and because when someone gets put down, it makes us feel better about ourselves, and we don't say this, but inside we're thinking, well, at least I'm not as bad as that person. I'm kind of glad to hear that that person is doing poorly, because I'm not doing that bad. It makes me feel better. I love what Lou Holtz said. They said to Lou, they said, why don't you talk, why aren't you more vulnerable about some of your struggles? He said, well, my conclusion is 70% of the people in the world don't care about my struggles. 25% of the remaining are glad I have them. You know, when people come to us with gossip, I think in a loving way, not in a mean way, we just need to say, have you been to John with that? Have you guys sat down and talked about that? Is what you're saying a perception, or is it the truth? Is that an imagination, or is that a fact? You just made a wonderful contribution to the body. And again, we don't need to be self-righteous about it, because just wait a little bit, you'll be doing the same thing. Vain imaginations. Why don't we learn to ask instead of imagine? Well, now let's talk about some nuts and bolts of healthy community. Some nuts and bolts. Boy, this is sweet. Lord, help me hear myself talking. Help me hear myself talking. And we're back to the same old, but one of the key characteristics of life together, a healthy family, is just a thing called humility. Walking in humility. Here's a phrase we need to learn to say often. I was wrong. Let's say those three words together. Ready? I'm the choir leader. Ready? I was wrong. Ready? I was wrong. Some of you don't believe that. Let's try it again. Ready? I was wrong. Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine what would happen in this body if consistently we would say something like this, and I want to add a few words at the end. You know, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I forgot we were in the same family. I forgot for just a few moments or a few weeks that, golly, we're in the same family. I forgot. I'm sorry. I started looking at you as an enemy instead of a brother. That's wrong. We're in the same family together. Humility. I got this from Dietrich Bonhoeffer in the book Life Together, so I want to give him credit. You know, he's dead. He won't know, but I would need to give him credit. But this may be one of the most important things I say tonight. You talk about revolutionary. Talk about revolutionary. Listen to this. In life together, to live with a spirit of gratitude versus a spirit of demandingness. Now let me unpack that for a minute. A spirit of gratitude, this is what a spirit of gratitude looks like. We are so much in love with the cross of Jesus, the Jesus of the cross. We're continually broken over our depravity. We're continually overwhelmed with Calvary. And we're so grateful that we are on the journey, not alone, but together with a family of people who know their depravity, but are stunned with Calvary, that whatever we get, we're grateful for, versus being a picky demander who's always screaming about what they don't get. I tell you, one of the scary parts about living in the 90s, as far as our mindsets, and I'm talking about people my age, is we're consumers. We're more consumers than we are Christians sometimes. And we come to church with that consumer mentality of, well, I'll just check out the menu, and if I can find my entree and my particular appetizers and my desserts on the menu, then who knows, I may stay in this restaurant and eat. But I've heard across town, there's a church over there with maybe a better menu. And the pastor over there has written 20, let me say that again, 20 books. And how many books again, Pastor Walker, have you written? Now, I'm not setting anybody up. There's no names and faces. I don't have a hidden agenda. I'm just telling you that's an attitude of a consumer. And they come in here with their mouths open saying, meet my needs, and if you don't, I'm going to pout and go someplace else. Well, you do need to go to a church that's sensitive to your needs, but hopefully we can begin to grow up a little bit to where that's not what we're always concerned about. And that when you do get a morsel, instead of saying, well, it's about time, that's the spirit of demandingness. When you get anything, you say, oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you imagine if that spirit was rampant in a church body, the difference that would make? Secrecy, not only humility, but secrecy. Healthy secrets. We don't have to always be recognized for the good that we do. Bless others anonymously. Do we have to have our names on church pews? Well, that ain't this kind of church, but some people do. I have a hard time having secrets because I'm such a public person. I mean, when I die and go to heaven and my wife dies and goes to heaven, I do not have an illusion. I really believe God's going to say to me, thank you, David, thanks for coming. You just sit over there for a little while. Because you've been receded, you've been stroked so much, people have given you so many accolades, you got your reward, you just sit over there. Luana, you come up here. You're the one that did stuff that nobody saw. Your right hand didn't even know what your left hand was doing. Nobody knows what you had to live with, honey. Come and enter into the bountiful reward of the Lord. Secrecy. Do we have to always be recognized? We don't need to do things secretly, blessing others. Now, this is where it gets rough. Hang on, I'm going to the bone. And I hope this doesn't have an edge apart from the edge that the Spirit would give it. Not only is it humility, not only is it secrecy, but in a healthy body there are faithful wounds. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. We need to be able to lovingly wound each other when we need to. Now, for you six-gun Pete's out there that are saying, well, it's about time we start talking about rebukes. You're moving in my area of expertise. I mean, my favorite Bible verse is, blow them away. Well, let me say a word to you. If you enjoy rebuking, you probably need to be the last person that does it. I tell you, when we ever wound a friend or a brother or family member, it's because God just won't let us not do it. If you're not reluctant to speak truth in love, then please don't do it until you are reluctant. Well, I mean, we don't need sanctified assassins in the body. Hi, what's your gift? Assassination. Matter of fact, I have 14 scalps on my office door. I heard Peter Lord say this one time, in relationships in the body, we need to make more deposits than we do withdrawals. You know, Mr. Rebuker that comes in, do you realize how people experience you if you're Mr. Rebuker? They want to run from you because they say, well, here comes my daily rebuke. But at the same time, there are times we do need to rebuke each other in love. We need to wound each other. Thank God for faithful wounds. Now, I'm getting ready to say something that this is the tenderest, but I think, boy, as I thought about this afternoon, it was hilarious, but I just felt like I was on holy ground. I would hope this church would be able to grow and mature to the point where you could go in front of a few trusted friends and ask them this gut-level question. I do not know a more gut question than this one. And safe people who love you, don't do this in front of Pharisees, they'll kill you, but in front of people who love you, ask them this question. How do you experience me? How do you experience me? talk to me about some of my blind spots, because, I can't stand outside of myself, and I don't know how you experience me, because I can't experience me. I'm too close to the forest. What are those things that love me enough to wound me here? What are those things that trouble you about me? You've known me a long time. What are those things that you see that I need to work on? Boy, what a vulnerable thing. Life and death's in the power of the tongue. Be careful if someone takes that risk with you. Don't kill them. Be tender. And this is where I got to laughing in my hotel room this afternoon. I know how people must experience me. I mean, among other things. Because this is how I experience me. I talk too much. I told Luana today, I can't wait to get home. I'm tired of hearing myself talk. And particularly when God's Spirit is on me, I need to wear my t-shirt. I'm talking and I can't shut up. And I thought about American Indian names, and please, this is not a put down, but I would be he who talks too much. He who goes on with his continual droning. Now, am I minimizing the verbal gift God's given me? Absolutely not. I'm grateful for it. Thank God for it. Aren't you thankful for it? Absolutely. But I got to be honest enough to have close friends around me and say, how do you experience me? I have a list of questions that I ask myself from time to time. They're so brutal I don't ask them often. But one of my questions is this: can you just shut up? Can you? Another one of those honest gut questions is, do you have to tell everything that you know or suspect, even to a cab driver who's taking you to the airport? Folks, I'm pretty honest and realistic about myself. Are you? Are you? That's a scary journey. But I tell you, that's a journey that could have growth written all over it for some of you. And you need to go to a trusted friend. I've opened myself up to Pharisees, and it's taken me a year to recover from the unfaithful wounds I got from them. Be careful who you do that with, but do that with somebody. Do that with somebody, because that might be the areas where you need to grow. How do you experience me? Important. Do people hate to see you walk into this sanctuary? Do you know there's some people of you in this family, and I say this in love, people hate to see you walk into this sanctuary. They'll never tell you that. They'll smile, oh, thank you. But I tell you what, you wear them out. Family, you just wear them out. You've always got a word. I'm not picking on anybody. Don't come up to me afterwards and say, were you talking about? Don't do that. You don't need to do that. I'm trying to help you grow. Let's don't be people that when we walk into a room, inside the family goes, oh. Because if we're pretending, we'll just say, oh, praise the Lord, you're here. I just love you with the love of the Lord. Another characteristic of nuts and bolts of healthy community, tons of encouragement. Boy, we need to give tons of encouragement. The word encourage means to lend courage. Oh, we just need to give encouragement. Nuts and bolts. We need to be willing to sacrifice for one another, to meet our needs, meet each other's needs. I tell you, when I read the book of Acts, in that particular passage where it says they were willing to endure the joyful seizure of their property because they visited the prisoners, their property got seized because they identified with their Christian brothers and sisters in prison. Now that is so far down beyond my spiritual journey. If somebody seized what little piece of property I got, I'd be really mad. And those older brothers and sisters are further down the journey that are saying to me, hey, you got real estate in heaven. Don't get so uptight. But I'm not there. I'm not there. But I got older brothers and sisters down the journey of saying, hey, that little old real estate you got ain't no big deal. And I know it's not any big deal, but I'm not ready for it to be seized either. Relentless patience, gentleness, daily mercy, unconditional love. We need a holy boldness. I guess I'm repeating this, faithful wounds, but there are times we need to be like pit bulls with people that we love, and we need to not let go until we break through their deception. That's called saving a person's life. If you know someone's lying to themselves, you need to lovingly just be a pit bull. That doesn't mean you need to be in their face every 24 hours a day, but you just need to be saying, I know what you say, but I love you, but I just don't believe you. I just don't believe you. I could be wrong, but I just don't believe you. I love you so much, I'm not letting this go. I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go. How many times have brothers and sisters died right under our very noses because we've been unwilling to be wholly bold? Now, I want to quickly add an addendum to that. There's a lot of wonderful strokes about being honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. And I am honest. When I'm not lying, I'm honest. When I am not lying, I'm one of the most honest people you'll meet. But I tell you, there's a real downside to honesty, folks, being real. A lot of times we don't always need to say what we think we know because people aren't ready to hear it. We need to be patient. Yeah, let's be real, but there's power of life and death in the tongue. So just being real and just being honest is wonderful, and it's also terrible if it gets out of control. We need to learn to practice self-control and being honest. There's a lot in the Bible that says, hey, keep a watch over the door of my lips that I won't sin against you. We need to be honest to the point of building up, not honest to the point of tearing up. Some people are just honest killers. But I'm an honest murderer in the body of Christ. Well, that's not okay. We need to be an honest, gentle builder. Well, I'm about done. You're doing good. Can you hang for just a few more minutes? All right, because it's my last chance. I'm gone, and you're not going to see me for a while, so I just want to unload the rest of my heart. I'm ready for Roman numeral 4, the credibility that healthy community gives. John 13, 34 and 35, by this shall all men know that you're my disciples because you have a great building complex. No. By this shall all men know that you're followers of mine. Because. The way they know we're followers of Jesus is because of the way we love one another. May people through the years come to this place and leave and they go, wow, my, they know how to love one another. Look how they love one another. That gives credibility to the gospel when we become the family God wants us to be. When we live in unity, John 17 says, may they be brought to complete unity to let the world know that you sent me. No wonder the world is so confused. Do you know what? I'm not confused that the world is confused. They don't get it. And sometimes they don't get it because they look at us and how we relate to one another as a family. We don't get along, we bite each other, we hurt each other, and we violate everything I've been talking about. And then we wonder why the world does not want to hear what we have to say. It's because the way we live gets in the way. I'm going to be done in about 7 minutes, but here's the last one. The people of community that we all need. There's certain people that you need in your life, and let me describe them in the family of God. All of us need these people. This is not new news, but it's just the truth. We need spiritual fathers and mothers. All of us need spiritual fathers and mothers. 1 John chapter 2, verses 12 through 14, it talks about spiritual little children, it talks about spiritual young men and women, and then it talks about spiritual fathers and mothers. May this church, may God gift this church with a plethora of spiritual fathers and mothers. And I know that this church populates the city. People come, they get well, they leave. A lot of that, we're church of the open sore up where we are because we're a safe place for hurting people to hurt out loud. This may be the church of the revolving door. I don't know. But may some of the people that not revolve out your door would be a good solid core of spiritual mothers and fathers. Why? Because we need spiritual mothers and fathers in our body. And they may not have tags and titles. And matter of fact, if you even said to someone, I think you're a spiritual father, how you can tell they probably are is that would embarrass them. If they'd say, well, it's about time you recognize that. They're not. They're not. They're spiritual adolescent. We need spiritual mothers and fathers. Well, who is a spiritual mother and father? It's someone who's lived in union with God for a lifetime, who's known Him, who's been from the beginning. May God give this body spiritual mothers and fathers. They're the ones that are ahead of us in the journey, and they're calling to us. God's worthy to be trusted, even in the bad times when everything's indicted. They live out what we've been talking about this week. It's in their bones. That's who spiritual mothers and fathers are. And we all need spiritual mothers and fathers. All of us need spiritual peers. We need spiritual peers. We need people that are with us in our season of life. I'm part of a midlife group of men, and I'm telling you, I love that group of men. We talk about issues that are right where we are in this season of life. I mean, I've heard Hillary Clinton say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, our little addendum is it takes a village to pay for college tuition. That's the season of life we're in. And we're able to talk through the seasons of our lives before the Lord together. We need peers. We need spiritual peers. And some of you that are laborers in this body and you're not with spiritual peers very much, find some spiritual peers somehow. People that are at your season of life that you can talk about issues. That'll be a drink of cold water for you. Not only do we need spiritual parents, moms and dads, we need spiritual peers. And in those two groups, we'll have a priest. You know, sometimes we get down on Roman Catholics of saying, well, you don't need a priest. You can go directly to God through Jesus. And you can, that's true. But that doesn't mean sometimes we don't need priests, a Jesus with skin on person to hear our confession. There have been times I've needed a priest in my life to say, you know what? God's already said you're forgiven. The Word says you're forgiven, but you just probably need to hear it through human lips. You're forgiven. Sometimes we need a priest. James 5:16, we need a priest. Confess our sins. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. And that priest person would probably come out of a spiritual mother or father or out of a spiritual peer. Our Nathans, you are the man, would probably come out of those two categories. I love my pastor, and I've told you he's my best friend, and he said to me one time, I never forget this. This was in a group with the elders. And he said this to this group of men. I never heard anything like this. He said, man, I'll tell you what, if I start being goofy, and you see me getting goofy, and you don't tell me that I'm being goofy, then when I stop being goofy, I'm coming after every one of you guys. Well, that was vulnerable. That was honest. I never heard a senior pastor talk like that in my life. Most of the senior pastors I knew immediately went into that low voice. All of us need little brothers and sisters, too, in our lives. We all need little ones. Those that we can help with their growth and their development. Those that are going to mess in their spiritual pants. Those that need our patience. We need little brothers and sisters in our lives. I hope you've got some. Your life's not complete if you don't have some little brothers and sisters, spiritually speaking, in your life. And that might be a 45-year-old man. You got a lot of people coming through these baptismal waters, and they're little bitty babies in real old big bodies. But don't be deceived. They're little babies. So don't be surprised when you have to clean up a lot of spiritual diapers. That's what babies do. The last time I checked, and I ain't ready to check again. I'm done with that. Little brothers and sisters. The fourth kind of people we need in our lives is we need wounded, paralyzed people in our lives. Those that are paralyzed emotionally, spiritually, physically, maybe. We need to love people who cannot love us back. We need to give to people who cannot give back to us. All of us need people like that. And may God give those kinds of people to this church in abundance. Henry Nouwen, who's with the Lord, left the academia. I mean, he would taught at, I don't know, Notre Dame or Yale or Harvard in the theology schools. Toward the end of his life, he left and he became part of a little mentally challenged community, L'Arche, up in Canada. And he said, I learned more about God and about myself, taking care of seriously, mentally, physically handicapped people than I've learned in my whole life in academia. I learned about love. They didn't care about titles. I think he had written 25 books. None of them could read. They didn't care. They weren't religious. None of them went to church. They had no spiritual background. And he said, there, all I brought was just, so to speak, my naked self. None of my titles, none of my accolades. All I brought was my heart. And he said, I learned more about my heart from those people that just told me the truth about me. He said, I think that's when I began to grow more than I've ever grown. And we need people like that in our lives. Thank God for people like that. But I want to say a word to you. If you are spiritually in the intensive care unit, I'm getting ready to say something harsh. Not harsh, hard. It's okay to come to this church and be in the intensive care unit. It's okay. Some of you need to come and you need to rest until you get well. And then get up out of the bed. Get up out of the bed. It's not okay to stay in bed in the intensive care unit when you're well. It's not okay. So quit calling for the nurses and expecting your food to be delivered 3 times a day. And get out there and start being productive yourself. When you get well. Not before. Stop just laying and being crippled when you're not crippled anymore. Stop doing that. Now, if you need to stay in bed, stay in bed. If you need to not do anything for a while, don't do anything. We got 5,000 to 6,500 people in our body. We got some of the most wounded, damaged people I've ever met in my entire life. And it's okay. My pastor says, come and just rest. Don't come and do stuff, just rest. But some of them have rested so long, they've got bed sores. And now it's time to get up off the bed. And why don't you start helping other people as they come in with IVs in? That'd be good for you. Well, I don't know how. Well, we'll teach you. I don't know what to do. Somebody will show you. You just have the heart. They'll give you the skills. Knock on somebody's door and say, well, I was sick, but now I'm well, and I don't have a clue on how to help. Would you just point me in the right direction? And all of us need unchurched people in our lives. We need unchurched people in our lives. They keep us honest. Don't they keep us honest? I love unchurched people. I hope I am not offending you when I say this, and please forgive me if I do. I knew that Church of the Open Door was going to be home for me. I knew it when this thing happened. Now, if you get offended, then just forgive me. But I was sitting there by the pastor, and I didn't know him well yet, and this man came up to the pastor after David had preached this sermon, and this man said, Pastor, that's the best damn Bible study I've ever heard in my whole life. Of all the damn Bible studies I've ever heard, that's the best damn Bible study I think I've ever heard. I don't say that to swear. I say that to say, I thought, I'm at home here. I like this place. It doesn't have this smell of religion. Will the Holy Spirit help that guy probably clean up his language? Maybe. Probably. But it was his heart. And my pastor said, well, thank you. I worked damn hard trying to do it. No. He didn't say that. I said that. Well, I'm done tonight, but you might just be beginning. Some of you might have some family matters to deal with tonight. You might need to put some shoe leather on some of this. You might need to give a call and say, you know what? I was wrong. I'm sorry. I forgot we were in the same family. Please forgive me. Would you forgive me? We're not enemies. Let's be friends. And that doesn't even mean we have to agree about everything. Maybe you need to do some family work tonight. In here, in this room, fine. At home, fine. This week, fine. I don't care when you do it. Just do it. Just do it. Maybe you need to pray. I've said a lot tonight. You didn't get it all. You might need to go back through this by getting a tape from Jerry after this thing's over. And just saying, hey, I need to hear that again. And some of you have got a little safe group of people, and maybe one of your topics of your little small groups need to be, I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death to say this. But here it goes. Live or die, sink or swim, get fat or get skinny. Here we go. How do you experience me? Well, get ready to grow. Get ready to grow.